I love the upside of Reed if he can stay healthy.
We know he's not.
But
I feel like at this
he's
point,
one concussion away from Parkinson's.
Oh my God, Michael J. Fox, R.I.P. I don't even know he's dead.
You are now listening to the Trash Talk Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Angelo Sandone, Mike Saraf, and Mario Maniaci. Like and subscribe, motherfuckers.
What up, yo? It's your host with the most, the biggest assholes on the East Coast. This is the Trash Talk Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Angelo Sandone, my co-host, Mario Maniaci,
Yo.
And my other co-host, Mike Saraf.
What's going on?
What's up, gentlemen? Guys, as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Just search Trash Talk Fantasy Podcast, and we will be there. So I'm excited, guys. We got a big episode today. We have the 2019 Top 12 Tight Ends.
Outside of wide receiver and running back, do you lean heavier on the tight end or quarterback?
Well, the way that I look at it is there's times where the ADP suits you going for these tight ends. I'm not the biggest fan of the tight end position. My issue is a lot of the back end guys always seem to be so close in points. A 2 or 3 touchdown game that makes someone relevant, like a Kyle Rudolph or somebody like that. So if you are going to draft a tight end early, I really want you to just kind of take into consideration the amount of value that they hold. Yes, you're getting a top person in that position, but compared to another receiver that may be going at the same point, who's going to be better? Because that's with Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle. These are guys that I'm comparing to receivers.
Right, and they're going about the same time that you're hitting 9th, 8th receivers off the board, right? Going to the late second round. You know, you had your running backs, your runner receivers, and now you're having a tight end probably go late second round. And I put a lot of value on that position. If you can get one of the top guys, now when I match up with you every week and we're going head to head, I know I'm going to win that position. If I already got a top running back and I feel like I'm going to compete at the running back position and I know I'm going to win tight end, I feel like I got a good shot to win every single week.
Well, as always, research is everything. A few years back, I had taken Jimmy Graham and Gronk back-to-back in the 3rd and 4th round, and I smoked that league because nobody had a good tight end, and I had the 2 best tight ends. So it's basically I had 4 good receivers starting every week. So there is a strategy. There is a strategy here. We just want you to take that into consideration. Matt, are you ready to just jump right into this?
Yo, I'm ready. Let's jump into number 1. Let's talk about Kelsey over there in Kansas City. Is he going to get some extra targets if Tyreek Hill's out? You know, what's going to happen with him? I mean, he's got hands.
Yeah, I mean, he already had 150 targets last year, caught 103 of them, you know, catching about 70% of the passes thrown his way, had 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. He put it up in every single stack.
The most important thing, these tight ends are big guys, right? They're more prone to injury, in my opinion. They're bigger body dudes, used as battering rams, used on running plays to block. Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, all these guys at the top end, and a couple others in the bottom lower half, but these 3 in particular are playing all 16 games, and that's huge. Reliability, if you're going to draft somebody in the late 2nd, early 3rd round,
they better give you all 16 games.
You better be a damn good player if you're injury prone and I'm picking you in the 3rd round. Yeah. You better be life-changing.
Because come playoff time, if your 2nd round pick ain't playing, you probably are not going to win.
Just to piggyback off of what Mario was saying with Hill being on, I actually do think that Kelsey, a lot of people think that his value isn't there at the end of the 2nd round. They think there's a lot of better receivers and things like that. 4 weeks without Hill, I think, is just going to be absolutely monstrous. They have Mecole Hardman. They have some names that are going to keep people on their toes long enough to open up Kelsey over the middle or down the seam or wherever he's at.
I mean, Kelsey goes deep, too. Kelsey's
not
the short receiver. He'll run, a post route.
He'll
run straight down the middle of the field.
That's his route, right? The same route as Gronk.
Yep,
that seam route. Mahomes has the arm. Not every quarterback has the arm to throw that. But the biggest thing is going to be how's that run game going to hold up, right? Because Mahomes took so many hits last year, and if you're throwing a seam route and getting the ball downfield, you need time for that play to develop. So the running back's going to have to give some protection, or they're going to have success in the run game to back the pass rushers off.
I think KC's regular season offense is going to be fine. I really do. Even with Tyreek Hill being suspended 4 to, let's just say, 8 games at this point, I think he's just a cherry on top. I think he's a difference maker for the team, don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to survive without him. Andy Reid is a great regular season coach. Not so much in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Chelsea's 10 touchdowns, second among all tight ends. That's what you look for in a tight end.
Yeah,
big body targets, it's going to get you the 6. I don't need someone getting tackled within 5 yards. I need someone that's going to punch it in.
Oh, what, you don't want Julio?
Nope.
Or Juju?
I'm actually keeping Julio.
Yeah, well, I can't really blame you there.
We were all unanimous on Kelsey. We all also had Ertz at number 2. Ertz broke the single season record last year for catches by a tight end, broke Jason Witten's mark with 116 on 156 targets. So he also led the league in targets. In these PPR PPR leagues, those catches are just point stack.
Yeah,
right?
he led the league in targets, and he was actually the 7th most targeted receiver, not tight end, not just tight end, just overall pass catcher. He was number 7 in targets in PPR. We know that Wentz loves him. We know that Wentz is going to spread the ball out. The only bold prediction that I would have about Zach Ertz is that he could possibly regress in the touchdown department a little bit, just because I think Dallas Goedert is such a beast in the red zone, and he really started to come on. I still think that Ertz will be the number 1 receiver on the team, or right up there, but I think Goddard actually is going to cut into his touchdowns this year.
Goddard's
the only knock I have
plus,
on him.
Alshon Jeffrey's there the whole year, so he's going to take some touchdown targets. They drafted J.J. Arcee, whatever, in the second round.
It doesn't matter. We're not drafting him.
It doesn't matter. He's not going to play much his freshman year. The 8 touchdowns last year, that was a high mark for him. And for him to stay in the top, he has to continue to break the play into the end zone. There's a touchdown every other game. I'd really like to see him turn it up and hit double digits.
Well, it depends where you're drafting him. If I'm grabbing a guy with 8 touchdowns but 116 catches and over 1,000 yards, and I'm taking him in like the late 3rd, early 4th, I'm not upset about that production either. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I recommend it. Don't reach. There's a lot of names and there's a lot of players that you could take over these tight ends. It really depends on your draft. You have to take what comes to you. If Ertz falls to the 3rd, or if Kelsey falls to the 3rd, then it's a no-brainer. But moving on, George Kittle, San Francisco tight end, had a monster year last year with 2 backup quarterbacks. Even though we've said it before, those 2 backups actually equivalated to the number 11 overall quarterback at the end of the year last year. It's the Shanahan system. You have Pettis, who kind of emerged into his own there a little bit this year. I think Kittle still has a monster year. I think we come down in the yards a little bit. I think there's a couple more mouths to feed, and we don't know who Garoppolo's favorite target is right now. We don't know.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. He averaged 16 yards per catch. That's the highest of everyone on our top 12 list, except for O.J. Howard, who averaged 17.
Yes.
Right? But he's one of only 5 tight ends to get over 100 targets, and he was with 136. That puts him 3rd in line. I'd like to see his catch percentage come up a little bit this year, right? 88 catches on 136. That's only 65% of the time. Your tight end's supposed to be your safety net. I'd like to see my tight end, and most of the tight ends on this list are up into that 70%, right? So if the targets can kind of stay there and he can take that 88 to 95, the yards come down a little bit, and I need that touchdown number to come up, which I think they're just a better offense with Garoppolo. So they're going to score more touchdowns as a team. So just, through stupid math, he's going to get an extra 2 to 3 this year. He hits that 8 number, and he's right at Ertz's stat line.
Yeah, Garoppolo is supposed to be a full go in camp. So he's getting the early start. They're going to have that off-season. Good test for Jimmy G to see how he's really feeling.
We want to see him throw. We want to see him throw at this point. About a year removed, give or take. You have the best doctors in medicine. Now's your time to show it. You figure August is going to be when he shows it. Moving on to our consensus number 4 tight end overall is a name that once we actually did the consensus rankings, we really started to counterpoint ourselves here. But we have number 4, Hunter Henry of the Chargers. Now, Henry was hurt last year, so we're really just kind of going off his stats in 2017. But the one thing that we noticed is we're really going over his stats that are from 2016, because that's where the hype kind of emerged with him. Gates was getting a little bit older day by day, and he came in and scored 8 touchdowns in 2016. He came on an absolute tear. The touchdowns actually weren't there for him in 2017. He only had 4 touchdowns, 579 yards on 45 catches. So the question, gentlemen, is do you think if you drafted him in the 5th round that he's a bust?
I mean, if they're the numbers he puts out.
If he puts that, and that's over 14 games, so we give him a little bit of bump. Let's say it's 650, 700 with 5 or 6 touchdowns. Does he deserve to be number 4 overall? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think there's a lot of other tight ends on this list. If we redid it, I would definitely be bringing him down. I think we fell in love with the nostalgia. You hadn't seen him in an entire year. You saw how much they needed that person, especially when Keenan Allen went out last year, and Phillip Rivers had a really good season last year. And I think Hunter Henry might have put him over the top. So there's a lot of upside to Hunter Henry, but he really needs to hit the ground running early in the season. I think his ADP is going to be too high, and on any league that I have, I'm probably not going to end up with.
Okay, that's fine, but we all know that Phillip Rivers likes the big bodies in the red zone.
True.
Right? So Keenan Keenan Allen probably won't get as many looks. Phil Rivers, for years and years and years, it was Antonio Gates in that end zone.
This is true.
And
this is true.
Gates went down, he went right to Hunter Henry. He didn't take anything else. So that's where it is.
All right. So that's enough about him. Let's get on to
let's
Evan
go
Ingram.
from one tight end who was a bust or is a potential bust to another guy that we think really highly of, but also coming off a bust season.
Yeah, I can't believe the regression.
Holy regression, Batman.
Yeah, that Evan Ingram had last season. And maybe that was just the Giants as a whole. But this year, you have to be optimistic that targets are opening up with OBJ out of there. Maybe a little bit more unity as a team.
Unity!
Just because they just seemed like they were in turmoil last year. They were the bad news Bears. They weren't going to win shit. OBJ's knocking himself the fuck out.
Giants last year. You had Saquon Barkley and a bunch of dudes that were just sitting around him. Listen, OBJ's not there. Sterling Shepard's there. I don't think that Sterling Shepard's bad. I just think that Evan Ingram has the potential, since he lines up outside in those mismatch type situations. He could be the number one receiver that's not Saquon Barkley. That's the other thing too. Everyone thinks that Saquon Barkley is just automatically taking over all these targets. You can't give the ball to Saquon Barkley 100 times a game. This is not Space Jam. Grow up. You can't get away with shit like that. You're gonna have to spread the ball around, and we got two quarterbacks who have cement boots, and at this point in their careers, accuracy issues, one for being young, one for being old. They're gonna go to the big body that's lining up on the slot in the slot position.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, Eli targeted Ingram 115 times.
Yeah, he's a monster rookie season.
Yeah.
Monster. I don't think we lost all that production. I think last year was a big regression year, sophomore slump, but moving forward, I'm not really that worried about Ingram. I like Ingram, and here's my justification. Because if you're not getting a Kelsey Ertz Kittle, if you're not getting that guy that is necessarily a given, almost, I guess, at the top tier of their position, if I go through a draft, and let's just say hypothetically I grab Ezekiel Elliott, I come back and I grab Stephon Diggs, Pat Mahomes, and then on the 4th and 5th round, I grab 2 more receivers. If I'm in the 6th round with 3 decent receivers, or 2 decent receivers, 2 decent running backs, and a good quarterback, and I grabbed Ingram and filled out my starting slots, I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's when I think it's okay to take these guys. I don't recommend taking Henry, Ingram, any of the other names we're about to mention before the 6th or 7th rounds.
The next guy, Ebron, had a just monster season last year, led all tight ends with 13 touchdowns. Finally looked like he broke out of his shell. Is he going to take another step forward? I don't think he gets to 13 touchdowns, but there's still more opportunity. He only had 750 yards. We already said Andrew Luck has the ability to throw for 5,000 this year. Can Ebron get up to 1,100 yards?
First off, MFer, I never said that Andrew Luck would get to 5,000 yards. I said that Andrew Luck has the capability to get to 40 touchdowns. So don't be putting words in my mouth. I won't be putting nothing in yours. But I have Ebron at 10. I think he regresses. You have Funchess there now. Campbell, I don't really know how I feel about Campbell, but you have Naeem Hines, you have T.Y. Hilton, even though he's not a big red zone guy. Jack Doyle's coming back. You got a lot of names that could take touchdowns away. I'm not really sold on the yardage that he had. I think it was just kind of a product of him being the only big body guy in the red zone. If we drop those touchdowns down to about 8 or 9, I think that's still really high, but I'm being nice because he finally had a good season. And then you're taking the 750 yards, and I'm looking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 550, 560. He's not worth... I have him at 10. I just feel like there should be a warning label put on him.
Yeah, if he doesn't hit the touchdown number, definitely. I think that, Jack Doyle only played 6 games last year. Is he going to be a bigger part of the offense this year? They both got time on the field together. But Andrew Luck in that offense, they play 3-4 wide receivers. They love to spread you out, and that's where Ebron's getting open for all those touchdowns.
Now, if you go from year to year, you go back one extra year, he drops 13 catches, but loses 9 touchdowns. Like, that's a big drop off.
Yeah.
That's a big, for only 13, a differential of 13 receptions, that's a big number.
That's him.
Right, but you also have to, that's the Matt Stafford effect, right? Matt Stafford throws 4,000 yards every year. It's never to the tight end.
And we don't know who the hell he throws to, honestly.
Yeah, he's catching
ever since Calvin Johnson. So, moving on to finally a name on our list that I actually really like, O.J. Howard. So, a lot of people have O.J. Howard somewhere around the 4 spot. I've actually seen him creep up into the top 3 a couple times. There's a couple arguments for Howard. Last year, 565, 5 touchdowns. He had a 70% catch percentage, 16.6 yards per catch. But here's the most beautiful part about it all. Deshaun Jackson's gone. Humphreys is gone. 229 targets are now, in a sense, up in the air for grabs. I think that Howard does get an involved role, but what we do have to think about is Cameron Brate, right, Mike?
Yeah, it's been just the last couple years, Jameis Winston just always seemed to love Brate, especially in the red zone. Brate only started 2 games last year. He still snaked 6 touchdowns. He had more touchdowns than Howard, and he only started 2, and Howard started 8.
I feel like Brady's your typical reach tight end, which he's not getting any love, which is great. So in maybe a deeper league, you go ahead and value-wise, you go grab Brate and just pray that he stays healthy. Where a lot of people kind of feel the same about,
or at least on a
Jordan
bye
Reed.
week, you hope he grabs you a touchdown.
Yeah.
Right? If you get on a bye week and you don't have Kittle and you get 5 catches, 37 yards and a touchdown, and you drop a 13 spot or whatever that adds up to, that's winning fantasy football right there.
But the thing is, he only had 34 catches last year and 26 the year before. In PPR, that's 2 catches a game.
But that drones off of his targets. Remember earlier we talked about that 70% number? He was at 71%. Why are you only getting 48 targets?
Because he's not playing full season. He only started 8 games. He played in 10. If you were to double that over the course, he's getting 100 targets over the year.
No, I mean, you double it, it's only 96, so he still doesn't get to 100, and he played in 10. So you have to back some of that off. I'm saying if you really extrapolate that data, it's probably 88 targets.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm still okay with that. I'm still okay with that because he's still ending up somewhere as a type 4 or 5.
That puts him right there with, that's the exact amount of targets, 88, that Austin Hooper and Njoku both had last year.
I have him at 6. That's just where I have him. I have him at 6. He has a lot of upside. There's a lot of targets to be had. It all depends on Winston, and it all depends on Brate's role because as you pointed out, that is a major, major key to success there.
And him, if he steals the touchdowns, that could kill your season.
Moving on. A name that I love, our boy, Trey Boo Boo Burton. So Burton last year, I reached on. I loved Burton last year. I actually grabbed him in the 6th. Same theory. I had a good quarterback. Well, I didn't actually have my quarterback, but I had good receivers, good running backs at that point. It made sense to go with the guy that I really thought was good. First year in a new system with a rookie quarterback. The team itself had great success. And Burton did okay, but he didn't do great. 76 targets, 569 yards, 6 touchdowns. Averaging 13 yards per catch, around 67% catch percentage.
71.
Oh, I can't read well, folks. So apparently 71.
You're really going to cook.
Yeah, 71%. He still finished at the top 7 tight end overall. He's in a system that's growing. They're in a system, too, where we like Allen Robinson. And for the same reason we like Allen Robinson, we think that Anthony Miller is a sleeper because he's going to draw that number 1 coverage. He's going to draw that high safety off of the middle of the field and give Trubisky a nice little safety cushion. I think that's why you have to like Burton. I think there is an improvement on Burton this year. I think he could finish higher. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the 85 to 90 target range instead of 76. I wouldn't be very surprised if he was in the 60 to 65 range for the catches, maybe a couple extra touchdowns. I feel like he gets utilized a little bit more.
Don't forget, I mean, he threw for 1 last year, too.
He did, and he did throw for 1.
And he's, part of the Philly special, so he has that in his arsenal.
Oh, but every time with that. Every time with that.
But that was actually a college play before it was the Philly special. You stole
it. Yeah, and then we teabagged Belichick with it, so it's all about execution.
It is. They won the Super Bowl now that we're done talking about that.
Yeah, I had Trey Boo Boo higher than both of you. He had a slow start last season. He really started to get into the offense. I think if the Bears are going to be successful this year and long term, Mitch Trubisky needs to take that step forward, and that's going to be Allen Robinson. It's going to be Trey Burton. 6 touchdowns plus throwing 1, 7 total. He needs to get up to 10. I think that's where I like my tight ends to get to, and about 800 yards. And I really think that's what we're going to see out of him this season. Double-digit touchdowns, 800 yards.
Yeah, I think Burton definitely reaps the benefits of the growth of Trubisky.
Well, it's all based off Trubisky. I think that's the main thing. It's all predicated. Everything in Chicago comes back to, well, what about Mitch? What about Mitch?
Does he regress any? Does he, sort of come out more? I mean,
if he regresses at this point, I think he's a Knicks. I don't think you should be starting him.
He's the first one. I mean, you look at these other guys. Kelsey, top offense. Ertz, top offense. Kittle, San Fran's going to be a top offense. Hunter Henry, great offensive season last year. Well, besides Ingram and now Burton, these are the guys that they just happen to make plays as opposed to people that are just getting production out of top offenses.
All right, and up next we got Jared Cooke.
Now here's a guy.
Had 101 targets, 68 receptions, 896 yards with 6 touchdowns. Averaged about 13 yards a catch with a 67%. Mike, how are you feeling about Jared Cooke this year?
Love him, right? He had a great season last year. The 101 targets, one of only 5 tight ends to reach that target number of 100 and caught 67%, which is a little bit low, which I'm surprised because of the year that Drew Brees had completion percentage-wise last year. And, I mean, everyone knows, I think he set the single season record. And, I mean, 86% to Michael Thomas. That was just crazy.
Thomas is his own, for sure.
It's only 6 touchdowns. That's always been a worry with any Drew Brees team, any Drew Brees player. You know, the hot and coldness of them getting into the end zone, and instead of giving you a 12-point week, getting that 18 to 24-point week. I had it all last year with Michael Thomas.
Let me stop you there. Here's my beef with Cooke. They have not properly used the tight end up until last season, at least from the numbers standpoint, since Jimmy Graham. Since Jimmy Graham's been gone, they've regressed very bad there. As we've all said in the quarterback edition, I think that Drew Brees is going to be scaled back a little bit this year. I'm not saying it's going to be a horrible year. I just think it's going to be regressed a little bit. Cooke hasn't shown us this long term. Finally came out, played 16 games. I think that 101 targets actually drops next year. Latavius Murray could pick those up. There's always another receiver. A guy that fell off last year was Traquan Smith, fell off last year. If he comes back and steps it up, then you're looking at a regression at Cooke's position where you're about 80 catches. And that's when I think that everything's kind of a little skewed here, and this is why we have him move back.
But back him up to 80 catches. He still averaged 13 yards per catch. At 900 yards, he was fourth in yards amongst all tight ends. Even if you back him down 20 catches, he's still right there in the meat where all these other guys were that in the same grouping.
Well, that's tight ends. That's tight ends for you. And that's what I'm saying. He's not that special. If you miss on Cooke and you have to go with a guy like Hooper and Njoku, McDonald, Walker.
Yeah, but if the miss,
I didn't say it.
Yeah, Angelo. But if the miss is just where everyone these 6 through 10 were, as long as you don't reach before the 7th round, you're not hurting anything.
I get what you're saying, but
downside.
A Saints tight end not named Graham just doesn't seem to really make all that sense. Right now, so he's getting drafted in the 7th round right now. And there are receivers and running backs I will take over Cooke all day.
If I already have my starting receivers and running backs selected,
I'm building my bench.
I need a tight end. I'd rather have him than end up with Rudolph.
No, because
that's what happens. You wait 2 more rounds, and you're starting Kyle Rudolph, and then your team sucks.
Yeah, see, this is where I disagree with you. Jared Cook's current ADP is 7 at the back end of the 7th round. Guys like Trey Burton, back end of the 10th round. We don't love Greg Olsen this year, but we don't hate Greg Olsen this year. He's at the back of the 13th. Austin Hooper, back of the 13th. There's guys that can produce more than Cooke, arguably, that are going way later. I'm not reaching at the back end of the 7th when I have an option to grab a receiver somewhere in the neighborhood of like a Kenny Galladay or somebody like that.
Look, by the time I get to the 7th round, I have my roster, my starters basically filled out. I like to get the best option for someone that's going to play every single week.
I think that's a terrible strategy. Okay, maybe not a terrible strategy, because I have a similar strategy where guys that we have ranked a little bit higher, like Ingram, stuff like that. Yes, if you have 2 good receivers, 2 good tight ends, or running backs, maybe a receiver, maybe a quarterback, maybe 3 receivers. Sure, go for an Ingram. Maybe go for a Hunter Henry where their ADP is, because it makes sense, because these guys have upside to be 10, 11 touchdown guys. We know that in that system in New Orleans, that Cooke is never going to be a 10, 11 touchdown guy. I just don't see it. I don't see him having an Ebron-esque year. I just don't see it.
That's why he's 4 spots behind him.
And that's what I'm saying. Where he's falling in drafts right now, I think is a little unfair. Same thing with guys like Vance McDonald. Like these guys, I like them. They're good players. They're in good situations. I understand the argument. But for what their floor could be, I would not reach on them before the 10th round.
Now, this next guy is someone I really actually like to improve upon what they've been doing. Austin Hooper.
Yeah, boy.
Right. All 16 games last year, 88 targets, so just a little shy of that 100 mark. I think he's going to hit that 100 mark this year. He caught 81% of his targets.
Are you worried about Calvin Ridley being more of a focal point in the system, or Devontae Freeman coming back?
No, not really. Matt Ryan throws the ball. They throw the ball every year all over the place. It gets spread around there. Julio's going to get his, and I think Hooper's going to get his too.
I have this, it's funny, and this is just kind of proves the point what I was saying a little bit earlier. Hooper has similar knocks to Cooke, both on teams with quarterbacks that are a little bit older, both dome teams. They both have two good receivers on the other sides of them. I would rather take that upside at the 13th round versus the 7th. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Right.
But I love Hooper at the 13th round. I would love to pair a guy like Hooper and Greg Olsen, or Hooper and Burton, or Hooper and actually, believe it or not, Jimmy Graham or Jordan Reed.
So Hooper, I'm going to give you a number right here. Ready?
Hit it with
3, 3, and then 4. That's his touchdowns each of his first 3 years. So the most touchdowns he's had in the season is 4. You already know Matt Ryan has trouble throwing to Julio in the red zone.
Yeah.
Right? That offense has really regressed in the touchdown category. Mm-hmm. If it's a Matt Ryan issue, then that 4 may be his ceiling. And if his ceiling's 4, or you have Ebron with a ceiling of 13, who would you rather have?
Do you have that stat in your pocket all day? And
I did.
You
I did.
Tell nobody about that.
I read that shit earlier. Yeah.
Now, like when you have quarterbacks like Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, I mean, these are those, that second tier, those older guys that we were talking about before. If they regress and they can't get that deep ball down there, do these tight ends benefit being a little bit closer to them? If you can't push the ball down the field anymore.
Yeah, but do they feel like they can't push the ball down the field anymore?
Well, no, but do they just feel like it's smarter, maybe to take that guy that's running, 7 yards out on a 2nd and 3?
Yeah, well, that's why Hooper caught 81% of his passes. His yards per catch is the lowest of every tight end on our list at 9, right? Everyone else was at least double digits, and that's why. They stretched out the field, they hit him, he wasn't getting a lot of yards after catch, he's not breaking tackles, he's catching it, getting you first downs, going down, moving the chains, and not getting you to the end zone. He's going to get his targets, going to get his catches, going to get some points.
But he's not going to get the touchdowns, not historically speaking. Moving on, our next player is Njoku from the Cleveland Browns, where everybody somehow seems to get all the passes. You got to get a player in the Brown system. You got a player in the Browns system. Dude,
when did the Browns become
6 fucking wins?
become Kansas City?
Mayfield looked great. Listen, Mayfield balled in college. He came into the pros. He continued the ball. I like Mayfield. I think everyone was a little nervous about him with his attitude, but that's how winners talk, baby. That's how winners talk.
Yeah, that's how Johnny Manziel talk.
Well, that was the cocaine talk, but that was differently.
Well, is that how Tom Brady talks? Is that how Peyton Manning talks? Is that how...
Yeah, those guys were 6th-round picks and didn't win Heisman trophies in college.
Peyton Manning was the first overall pick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard Tom Brady, and I heard Tom Brady.
We were immediately talking 6-rounders.
Finish him.
Meanwhile, you have guys like Phillip Rivers that do talk like that, and where's Phillip Rivers in the postseason? Like he's Rivers, almost Tony Romo-esque in the playoffs.
Yes.
Like,
Phillip Rivers has a Super Bowl ring. He's in the Hall of Fame conversation, and his numbers are always underrated. He's like a guy. I think when he does finally get a fair ADP, like going into a fantasy season, stay away. That's Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Whenever Larry Fitzgerald has a fair ADP going into a season, he's a total fucking bust. Compared to the ADP.
This is like a year to reach on Larry Fitzgerald then, because no one's ever talking about him this year.
I got to be honest with you. Going back to receivers here a little bit, not to fall too far off track, but yeah, I absolutely agree. Getting back on track here with Njoku. Last year, Njoku had 88 targets, 56 catches, 639 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he was at about 64% catch percentage.
Now, that seems like Baker. How bad was Jarvis Landry? With all those targets, he was only able to catch 77 balls. And these are your guys that aren't running downfield. I mean, that has to make you really worry about OBJ this year.
Well, I think those numbers increased when Mayfield was in there. Mayfield is a gamer, okay? He's going to make throws on the run. That's where money really is making those throws on the run. The problem is OBJ coming into town, to me, greatly reduces these guys' chances of becoming the safety blanket, the safety valve, that quick toss. OBJ is going to want his target. And you thought that Landry wasn't going to regress that much. So if Landry's not regressing, and Chubb's not regressing, and OBJ is coming into the picture getting his cut, the tight end position...
They're Kansas City.
They're about... and you got to remember, last year, they had coaching changes in Cleveland. Who was their quarterback to start out? Wasn't it Tyrod Taylor or somebody?
It was Tyrod Taylor.
You know what I mean? So you had so much going on at the beginning
hurt.
of the year. That could be a good thing for Njoku. Yeah. You could see a bigger jump.
Baker needs some more time with the first snaps. He needs to work on on throwing a more catchable ball, just really fires it in there. And that's what's keeping it down. I mean, OBJ even made the comments after he went there. I don't know if it was to make the comment or to take a shot at Eli, but he said, I got to get used to catching these balls that come in so much harder.
And that was absolutely digging Eli. And honestly, shut up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, dude, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. You're a guy who made one good catch on a burnt play against Dallas.
In a game you lost.
In a game that you lost. Your catch was great. It was impressive. You lost the game, though. So really, how good was it? It wasn't that good. It didn't score 20 points and win you the game. I'm bitter. But I digress, and we move on. A guy that I'm a little upset with right now, due to his ADP, is our number 12 overall, Vance McDonald. Now, I think we have him placed correctly. I think Vance McDonald in the 9 to 12 range is very fair, very justifiable, but his average ADP currently is 7-11. I don't like him at the back end of the 7th round. Jesse James took time. Yeah, McDonald had that one play where he stiff arms the guy where he's running up the sideline. He's got the highlight reel of the year for the tight ends. Yeah, that's great. Unfortunately, you haven't had a track record of being consistently healthy through a whole season. 72 targets, 50 catches, 610 for 4 touchdowns, 69% was my favorite. I won't say almost 70. I'll say 69 every time. He's a good tight end. I don't think that his numbers are that much different next year. Maybe a slight uptick, but I don't think we're going to see him outside that top 7 or 8. Yeah. I can't see him breaking past that 7 or 8 barrier.
And that's why he ended up at the 12 spot.
For us. But his current ADP is in the 7th round.
He's not, his targets aren't going to go up to 90. Terrible. His yards aren't going to go up to 900. Like he's just not that type of player. Ben doesn't use his tight ends like that.
All right, let me ask you a question. We're going to play a little name game. Vance McDonald or Jordan Reed?
Tough one, right? So my gut says Reed, but my gut got burnt last year having Reed on his team. When he played, he's put up some points and some touchdowns. It's like he's just never going to be healthy.
You want to take the pretty girl back, but she keeps cheating on you and breaking your heart. Yeah.
So I'm going McDonald, but I love the upside of Reed if he can stay healthy.
We know he's not.
But I feel like at this point, one concussion away from Parkinson.
Oh my God, Michael J. Fox, R.I.P. I don't even know if he's dead. So continue with the name game. Mario, would you rather have Vance McDonald or Delaney Walker?
Yeah, I'm going with McDonald there. I mean, Delaney Walker, I just don't know if I can trust him. But yeah, I mean, Mariota can't throw to anybody. I think this might even be Mariota's sort of final hurrah as a starting quarterback.
I'll tell you what, bold prediction, Tannehill very well could be the starter by week 4 or 5.
Delaney Walker's getting up there in age. Yeah. He didn't play at all last year. The tight end they had fill in Yonu Smith, whatever the fuck his name was. Yanni Smith. Yeah,
like Seabirds and all that shit.
Yeah, we'll do all that. He didn't do anything to steal the job. So it's wide open. Mariota, you don't want anyone that he's throwing the ball to because he just doesn't get it done.
Well, in the name game, I'll throw one to myself here. Go ahead and give myself what we like to call the soft toss. But I'm going to raise a question of Chris Herndon or McDonald and Joku or Hooper. And honestly, I think Herndon's a guy that could really, really step in and make a major role this year. He, just like everybody else, he got hot at the end of the season when Darnold finally started to figure it out. But he's a rookie tight end. He's not going to get a ton of looks. He's a little bit more of a special teams, run blocking kind of guy. That's just typically outside of Evan Ingram and outside of Gronkowski. Those are just the roles of those guys. But 75% catch percentage, 334 yards, and 4 touchdowns in a small sample size. That's monstrous. His comparable players, when you look him up and research him, are Gronk. They are Aaron Hernandez. They're these big physical receivers that could get down.
But he's also, very fast, right? They were looking for ways to get him involved in the game last year, and actually he has 2 kick returns as well.
Does he really?
Yeah, 2 kick returns. I didn't know that. And he also received a punt. Not that that's going to be a role that he's going to be doing, but it just shows you if you're putting someone in those positions that it's an athlete.
Now, there are a list of names that we would consider honorable mentions like Delaney Walker, Jordan Reed, Cameron Brate, Kyle Rudolph, Jimmy Graham, Herndon, but there's one name in particular that people are they don't know the name now. They're going to know the name by the end of training camp. This player was actually drafted for a different quarterback, Joe Flacco, but that's Mark Andrews out of Baltimore. He got banged up last year. He was, really couldn't use him. But he's a guy who comes out in just 3 games, 68 catch percentage, 552 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's a major role. In RPO, he's so athletic. He's not the run guy. They have Doyle, who is their run blocking tight end. But Andrews is the Jimmy Graham. He is the Gronk. He is the playmaker. He's the Evan Ingram. This guy in the RPO option very well could be a heavily targeted guy. You don't know his name now. You will know his name later. If you want to prep for the drafts and win your league, these are the players that you need to know. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Mario, hit that gavel, B.